My name is Leah Atnat, and I support Maryland History Day at Maryland Humanities. Today, I want to talk about the thesis of your History Day project. Have you ever read a post or watched a video about history, and they just list fact after fact after fact, and you think, okay, what's your point? Well, the purpose of learning and sharing history is not just to discover lots of facts. It's to think about how all the pieces fit together. Why did that event matter? How did it change a community, the country, or even the world? The one main point that you will make is the thesis statement of your project. So what is a thesis statement? You might have heard of it before in your ELA or English classes. You might have even written one. No matter what subject you're studying, the thesis is your main point that you will support with evidence throughout the rest of that assignment. It's usually near the beginning of your paper or project, or in the introduction. This lets the reader or viewer know right away the point that you want to make so they can follow your supporting evidence and see your reasoning for how the story fits together. Though the thesis has this basic definition across different subjects, I want to give you some tips that are specific to writing a thesis for history projects, and specifically for National History Day. First, do you think a thesis for history is a fact or an opinion? I like to say that it's not exactly either. A fact doesn't need to be supported with other facts, and an opinion is too based in feelings and preferences. Instead, we should see the thesis as an interpretation. Interpretation is how you understand or make meaning of something. You are reading and researching and gathering facts and sources, and it's up to you how to make sense of them. What story comes out of those sources? What patterns do you see? How did one thing lead to another? How did our event create a significant change in history? This is the work that historians do. The things that we read in history books about how one thing led to another are not set in stone. A historian reads the sources and made that interpretation. And for this project, you are the historian. Another thing to remember is that different people can have different interpretations. Two students working on the same topic might come up with very different thesis statements. They might see different connections between events or highlight different aspects of that history. In this way, the thesis leans a little bit toward an opinion. Just remember that it's based on and supported by facts, not feelings. Let's take a look at a good History Day thesis, and then we'll break down the parts of it so that you can do the same thing. Here's our sample. In 1633, Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei was arrested because his scientific discoveries about a relatively unknown frontier, space, went against the teachings of the Catholic Church. However, these discoveries inspired his peers to continue their research, and Galileo's work would impact the future of science by improving our understanding and technology of space. First, let's notice the structure of this thesis. It's more than one sentence. When I was in school, my English teacher told me that a thesis should only be one sentence. For your History Day project, though, if you are doing an exhibit or a website, your thesis might be standing alone and might be the first thing your reader reads. They will need a lot of background information to understand the claim that you are making, so it's okay if your thesis is 2 or 3 sentences. And of course, for a paper, a documentary, or a performance, you might have a full introduction paragraph to set up your claim. Notice how this thesis gives the background information that we need up front in the first sentence. The first sentence is all fact. It's giving us the who, what, where, and when, and it's setting the stage for the interpretation that we make next. The second sentence is where the interpretations about that event come in, and specifically the impacts that it had. For History Day, the main question that everyone is answering with their projects is, why is this event historically significant? And we really see that in the impacts. So let's break it down. We started our thesis with some basic info. Who? Who were the main people in your story? Whose actions made the most impact in your story or were impacted the most? What happened? What's the main thing that you're writing about? When and where did it happen? And we can see that in the very first sentence. A big part of history is showing how events relate to what came before and after them. In the next sentence, we have our claim, the interpretive part of our thesis, the piece that we need to support with evidence, the impacts of your topic. Tell us both the short and long-term impacts that you'll be addressing later in your project. The final element that should go into a National History Day thesis is a connection to the theme. Use the theme word or words, and that can go anywhere in your thesis. A recent NHD theme has been Frontiers in History, and we can imagine that this thesis was for a project with that theme, so we see the word frontier in the first sentence referring to space. Some other themes that we've seen in recent years have been breaking barriers, communication in history, and debate and diplomacy. Whatever the theme is this year, find a way to include the keywords. It's up to you to make the interpretation of how your topic connects to the theme and to show the connection throughout your project. Those are the key elements of an NHD thesis statement. You can start by listing those elements for your topic. If you have all of this information, it's just a matter of putting it all together in a few sentences. Your thesis won't take its final form until you're done with all of your research and you know which part of the story you want to tell. If you would like some extra practice with the thesis statement, check out the first webpage on the left, thinkport.org/TPS/Mod3, and check out some of our other resources below that. I hope this video showed you that writing a thesis is not as hard as it looks and showed you the importance of answering that key question: what's the point?